Hello everyone, this is Richard Aduadier from Theogony, and I'm here in the ACPS TV Media Studio, and I have with me Denise Dunbar from the Alexandria Times, Emily Lehman from the Alexandria Patch, and Dan Brendel, who works for the Alexandria Gazette. And today we're going to start off with the school board vote on secondary school expansion. It was a 9-0 vote on the rebuilding of Mini Howard and a 5-4 vote to continue the investigation of the feasibility of building a second high school. So, Denise, given the vote to rebuild Mini Howard and the fact that we're actually going to do something with it now, at least we know that now, what do you think the possibilities of Mini Howard could be?
Yeah, so I think this is a really fascinating topic, and I've been following it pretty closely the last few months. I think Mini Howard is one important part of what they're doing. I personally think that those votes, there was something for everyone from those votes is what I took away from it. The superintendent, Dr. Gregory Hutchings, was pushing this sort of new innovative approach to multiple campuses. The school board, and it was complicated by the fact that he presented this plan in the fall to an outgoing school board that a majority of the people were rotating off of it. But even though they were essentially a lame duck school board, they pushed back pretty hard against his plan. And I think that there was a sense, not to put words in people's mouths, but I think of both the outgoing and the incoming school board that that the multiple campuses is sort of not an end unto itself. It's sort of viewed as more a good thing to do within a regular system. And so I don't think that the school board necessarily viewed it as the solution to the capacity issue. But because they did approve in principle, not the specifics of it, Hutchings basically got what he wanted. The old guard, the 4 holdover school board members, and I think this group was sort of led by Margaret Lorber, were most concerned about the immediate capacity issues. I actually interviewed Ms. Lorber for a story, and she was like, that looking at things down the road is fine, but we have to have enough seats for students this fall. And so I think her concern was, let's do whatever we have to do, whether that's trailers or whatever, to solve the issue for this fall, but Mini Howard has to be a part of that. But then the really fascinating part of it to me is that the 5 new school board members, clearly when they were on the campaign trail, they heard from constituents that they want to have a conversation about a second comprehensive high school. They may or may not wind up voting for one, but they feel like that conversation never took place. And so that 5-4 vote was their sort of putting the brakes on and saying, fine, we'll go away along with these other things, but we have to have that larger discussion.
Some of it's just cost too. If I recall the number correctly, the superintendent and his chief operating officer estimated that a new standalone high school could cost as much as $216 million, which is considerably more than the $124 million the city government agreed to last year to put toward it. So I think part of the superintendent's idea of having more distributed, smaller sites around the city, rather than one standalone campus, was that smaller sites are more available, they're cheaper, and they can be leased, probably, right? So if they leased 2 floors in an office building or something to be part of the Health Sciences Academy or whatever, but then 10 years from now the demographics of the school have changed, the academic programs have changed, they don't want to do that anymore, they just stop leasing it and do something else. So money's not a small part of the equation.
Given the distributed campuses and how they can change the leases and everything, that might rub parents the wrong way. They might not want their kids watching their kids' school building change every now and whenever. And do you believe that there could be a long-term solution for this issue?
Well, I mean, I don't know that I have any opinions about what it ought to be. I think that cost is going to be the driving factor, but something that Denise said, I think the really interesting thing to come out of this for me is not any technical solution about how they're going to fix the high school capacity problem. It's been sort of an illustration, I think, of a larger issue. Some people would call it a problem with politics broadly in the city. Is when you need to do something, you need to solve a problem, you need to provide a service or capacity to citizens. How, what's the best way to do that? Is the best way to do that for government bureaucracies, right? Like the departments of government, the staff of government, to come up with the best technical fix, or is it a political question where people need to decide what the answer is, regardless if it's the best technical solution? Well, the school staff and the superintendent, they pushed hard for this particular solution, which may indeed be the best technical solution in terms of cost and whatever. But if people don't want it, this is a democracy. It's a political question ultimately. And I think we've really seen that rub here. You see it rub in a lot of other things, especially with the city council, but certainly with the school.
Emily, do you think the new school board members, along with the public's increasing involvement with this decision, may cause a delay in an actual solution, which is what, at the end of the day, most people want?
I don't know if it would be a delay per se. It seems like they're moving forward, trying to start a focus group and with community members and get feedback from them, but it's really hard. If they decide if they're going with this connected high school network solution and, looking for some different places to put students, and that might, make officials feel like it's being solved at the moment and maybe, push that, that idea back that there might need to be a second school, but I feel like really just have to listen to what community members have to say in the upcoming months.
All right, well, moving on to the Torpedo Factory's new Vibrancy and Sustainability Initiative, which 2 months after the city permanently acquired the property, now the Torpedo Factory's facilities are being updated to be more environmentally sustainable and vibrant in order to boost artistic morale. When I was reading about this story, I didn't really know what sustainability and vibrancy meant, per se, because they just referenced that repeatedly, and given that the building is controlled by the city now, I think it's going to be a lot more difficult for people to know what their true initiative is. What do you think about that, Dan?
About making it, what those terms mean?
Yeah, what those terms mean.
I'm not sure what article you're referring to. Sustainability could mean just financial sustainability. Can the money it brings in pay for operating it, upkeeping it? It could also mean sustainability is kind of a buzzword that means
it could
like
mean a lot of
environmentally,
things. It could be financially sustainable, artistically sustainable, environmentally sustainable. Yeah,
sure.
A lot.
I don't know if this is your question really, but to me the interesting thing to come out of this, when I read the prompts, what it made me think of was I have every confidence that the city government could run the Torpedo Factory well, if it wants to, and if it needs to subsidize it directly, then it can do that. It does that with plenty of things. I think the interesting question, political question, is should it? To what extent does a local government need to be subsidizing the arts relative to all the other things that it needs to do? This was a pretty high-profile one, stocked with some pretty big movers and shakers in the city, citizen volunteers. And one of the guys, his name's Elliot Branch, he said, and I followed that pretty closely because it had to do with big money in the city budget. He said the local government has 5 priorities: public safety, infrastructure, education, general administration, meaning like collecting taxes and stuff like that, and providing some measure of a social safety net. So it's a reasonable question to ask, like, to what, arts and historic preservation don't fall into that. So I don't know. That's what comes out of this for me is I personally don't really care about the building itself.
Yeah.
I care about how it fits into the larger ecosystem of services and things that the city government, any government provides, and how well.
Denise, how do you think artists may respond to this who want to, lease the space to feature their art, or just the day-to-day operations?
Yeah, I think that there's a wide range of views of artists on this issue. Dan sort of talked about the sustainability aspect of it, but the other one that you said at the beginning is the vibrancy aspect of it. And vibrancy seems to be sort of the catchword of the day of sort of all council decisions, that we need more vibrancy in the city. I'm not really sure that that's the prism through which I think decisions should be made in the city of Alexandria. And clearly, the Torpedo Factory, one of the quandaries of this is sort of all the intersecting parts, that the Torpedo Factory was a rundown building on the waterfront at a point in time when Old Town was very rundown. It was not the genteel place that it is today in the early 1970s, and local icon Marion Van Landingham, who is an artist who's still a practicing artist today, who wound up being Alexandria's, one of our representatives in the state legislature for many years. She pulled together a team of artists to renovate the Torpedo Factory. So they sort of put sweat equity into this renovation. So you have that against the fact that the building was owned the whole time by the city, and the city's been having to put a lot of money into it. And they're changing the way some of the things are done. And then those realities butt up against the fact that a lot of the artists don't keep their studios open very many hours, certainly not as many as they're supposed to, so that when visitors walk in there, it is kind of dull. And, so something really does need to be done, I think. But I think the artists feel that most of them, that they still want to have sort of a final say.
Quickly, how do you think residents will respond?
I think they're going to really look to see if the city will put together a solid plan for the future of the Torpedo Factory. And honestly, I think some might think that maybe it'd be possible to do some public-private partnerships as well. I actually reported on recently there was a proposed outdoor market in front of the Torpedo Factory, which would include some open-air artists and a food market. And that might be something that might add to the vibrancy aspect, look appealing and draw people there. And although there were some concerns that they'll have to be careful about not obstructing artist views or anything. But if the city can put together sort of things like that, I think residents will be happy with it.
Well, that's all that we have for today. I'm Bridget Aduadier from Theogony, and I want to thank Denise Dunbar, Emily Lehman, and Dan Brendel. And this is an episode of Behind the Headlines, and I want to thank the TCTV media crew, and thanks for watching. If you have any suggestions for topics, please email tctheogony@gmail.com.